Hey, Trucking Goat, I want to be a truck driver like you. Are you insane? People say that to me all the time. I want to be a truck driver like you. Why? If you think you want to be a truck driver, or you're going through the motions of being one, do you really understand what it takes to be a truck driver? Especially if you're not in an area where they have a lot of local stuff, where you're home all the time, where you got to be on the road for weeks. Even if you're only running during the week and you're home on weekends, are you really prepared to live in a little truck by yourself all week?
Oh, look at that group. Hi, sweetie. Hi, JT. Sweet cheeks.
You need to understand some things, okay? That sleeper has a standard twin size bed, and maybe 2 extra feet on top of that where the cabinets and such are. That's where you live while you're working. Unless you get a company around you that's going to take you with no experience, you're going to have to spend time on the road. A lot of regional carriers, where they run you Monday through Friday, they might not take you until you get experience. When I say that, I mean you work for a company where you're leaving for 3 to 4 weeks, coming home for 2 to 3 days, and then going back in the truck for another 3 to 4 weeks. Different companies have different packages. Maybe you're only out every other week. Maybe you're home every other weekend. Some companies will give you 1 day home for each week out. So if you want a whole week off, you got to stay out 6-7 weeks. It's not a cake job. It's a lifestyle. You and your respected family, wife, girlfriend, kids, whatever, they live the lifestyle the same as you because you are not home. So if you can't handle being away from loved ones for extended periods, then trucking is not going to be for you. Now, if you can handle it, and you're going to go to one of these bigger companies where you're going to be out for weeks at a time, odds are in your favor, because after you get a year or two experience, whether it's with the company you work for or another company, the more time you put in, the easier you're going to be at getting a job where you can be home more. There's different degrees of home time that I'm speaking of. Some companies do like a home every other weekend. Some go home every weekend. Maybe you'll luck into a day, a shift job where you get a certain shift each day of the week, like day, evening, or night, and you're home all the time and you can still make a decent chunk of change. People think that because they're on the road for 4 to 5 weeks, they're going to make money hand over fist. Well, first off, you have your bills at home. You got all your general bills plus groceries. The one thing they don't consider is, well, how are you going to live in a truck? Are you just going to stop on the side of the road and eat dirt? You have grocery bills in the truck. If you're going to be out for weeks on an end, when you're doing your 34-hour restart in a truck stop, does that truck stop have laundry service? Is there a little laundromat in it? Because you got to do your laundry. You're functioning home life inside of the truck. And I think that's the big misconception. Everybody thinks that trucking is easy. Just get behind the wheel and you drive. There's a lot more to it than just get behind the wheel and drive. You are the manager of that vehicle. Now, you're going to have a dispatcher or driver manager, however they want to word it, that's going to plan out your weeks for you. Go here, go there, this load, that load, blah, blah, blah. And it's your job as the driver to get it done. Good days, bad days, maybe you get stuck behind an accident somewhere, whatever the case may be. It's your job to take the loads they give you and make them work. A lot of guys don't want to work that much. Some companies are going to want to run you 2,500, 3,000 miles a week plus. Some companies will give you 1,500 miles a week if that's what you're comfortable with. But if you're one of those guys that 1,500, 2,000 miles a week at whatever your pay rate is enough for you to sustain life, you better not be complaining about this other guy that made such and such more than you because he's staying out for weeks and you're coming home more often. That's the trade-off that a lot of these people that want to come into the industry, or that come into the industry and then eventually quit, they don't understand. You can either take a road job and make a lot of money, or a regional job and not make as much, or you can be home daily and you're somewhere in the middle. There's companies out there where they have great contracts and you can be home every day and make as much as the guys that are on the road. Some companies you don't. So when I meet somebody that tells me, hey, I'm thinking about doing what you do for a living, and this is advice for everybody that ever considers getting behind the wheel of one of these, is, are you starting green, meaning you do not have your CDL yet, you have to go to a school? Find a company that has paid training, like where they send you to a truck driving school. If you have to go about it yourself, so be it. But what you need to do when you're getting a job is you need to pick 4 or 5 different companies that you think you want to work for. Now, you can't trust everything you read on the internet. So if you go on these Facebook pages of all these trucking companies, you need to read what drivers say, the good and the bad. And you need to make up one piece of paper for each company that you consider. Home time, average mileage per week per driver, which that's an average. So if they say 2,500, that means, their lower tier drivers are only running 1,500 miles a week. Their top is 2,500 and over, blah, blah, blah. It's an average for a reason. And you need to look at their pay. And also health care. How good is their health benefits and how much does it cost you? And you need to get all those boxes for each company that you're considering. And then you need to sit down. If you're single, pick whichever one works. Oh, the other category was home. Yeah, I already said home time. I'm sorry. Home time, benefits, pay. And that's what you need to look at. You need to sit down with whoever it is you're with. Unless you're single, then you just choose whichever one's best. But you're going to sit down with your family and you're going to say, okay, this company has the best pay, but they want me to be out for this amount of time before I come home, and this is what their average weekly mileage is. Maybe the company with the better benefits has okay home time, but the mileage pay isn't the best. Maybe this company has great mileage pay, great home time, but the benefits suck. You need to find the middle ground, because you're not always going to find the best of everything. If you do, great. If you're already driving and you're not happy with the company you're with, either you're not home as much as you would like to be, or you're not making the money you would like. You need to look at a couple different things. Is it the company or is it you? Are they trying to give you 2,500 miles a week, but you're just not in it for that? You're more comfortable under 2,000, because then you're not going to make as much. Are you one of the guys that's running 2,500 miles a week, but you don't want to run that much? Maybe you just need to shift into a different company. It's not always, everybody always wants to point the finger with these bigger companies that the company sucks and it's because of the dispatch management or the company in general. How much of it is actually the driver? Because all you see is, well, they treated me like garbage. Why did they treat you like garbage? Did they give you a priority load and you were late? Are they giving you big mileage weeks, but you're not fulfilling it because you're stopping too often, or you're not managing your time? With e-logs, I understand it. I did that for a little bit. It's a pain in the butt. When you're used to go, 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 now you got a computer saying no, no, no. Or you get in an accident. Not you in an accident, but you get stuck behind an accident. You sit for a while. That eats away at your clock. Well, now your whole load plan's screwed up. That's going to happen no matter where you go. There's always potential for that to happen. So you need to sit down and look at all the options you have and choose what best suits you. Be prepared to live in that truck. If you can't handle being away from people, don't go into the truck. A lot of people these days, it drives me nuts. I'm an owner-operator. Say that again. Oh, I'm an owner-operator. Oh, so who do you run for? I run for this company. Oh, so you're a lease purchase. Yeah, but I'm an owner-operator. Do you have a truck payment coming out of your weekly settlement? Yeah. You're a lease operator. You're not an owner-operator until the truck is yours. Well, no, they told me I'm an owner-operator. No, you're a lease purchase, which is a glorified company driver, because all you're doing is now you're responsible for all the payments on that truck. They're going to sell you on making $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a week, but then they're also going to take $5,000, $6,000 for the payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance, cargo, all that stuff. You're a glorified company driver. There's a lot of lease companies out there now that are in hot water because the way they write their contracts up is basically a rental. Or the terms of their lease, which is one company, I happen to know the owner, I ran with him many years ago. It's in the contract that it is a rental agreement. And by the time you get to the end of this lease program, and you pay the balloon payment to pay off the remainder of the lease, you paid more than the truck was worth when it was new. And they get guys hook, line, and sinker. Oh, I'm an owner-operator. I do what I want. So can you take your truck over here and haul freight for this guy? Well, no, it's got to be through this guy. Because you're a glorified company driver under a lease purchase program. You're not an owner-operator. And that's every single argument about trucking has been going on for years, and it's never going to end, because there's always going to be people that just, they don't understand it. There's the same company I was just talking about. There are guys out there that made it to the end of the lease, and they made the balloon payment, and they do own the truck. But then they're suckered into staying there, which, I mean, if the company's a great fit for them, so be it. I know one that wasn't happy, but the way everything worked out, he couldn't afford to go anywhere else, because he got so complacent with the way that company operated and the way the settlements were with the payments he had to make and all this other stuff, that he didn't want the headache of going somewhere else. Fine and dandy. He went through hell to get that truck, but guess what? Now the truck is 6 or 7 years old. He's getting close to time to do a rebuild on that motor. And guess what he didn't do? He didn't put money back for when the truck breaks down. I mean, he has a maintenance account, but they're not going to cover a motor replacement at whatever it's going to cost him to redo the motor or buy another motor, 40, 50, 60,000, whatever it is these days. He doesn't have it. He makes enough to pay his bills and send his wife some money and pay for the kids' stuff, and that's basically it. And he's happy doing that. Which, hey, my hat's off to him. You're happy doing that? Good. That is awesome. You're comfortable with where you're at. Best way to be. Guys I know ran the load boards that you see at the truck stops. Which the other issue is, if you're going to go buy a truck and you're going to run the load board, understand that if you don't have a set mileage rate for your truck and you're hauling these garbage loads that pay you $800 to go over 500 miles, you're losing money at the end of the day. I don't care who says what or how they say it. I think the average now is like $2 a mile is what some of these guys are hauling junk freight for, and they're surviving. I don't know how the hell they're surviving. But my biggest gripe with these load boards is these loads that you think, oh, well, you know, that'll give me fuel money to get to where I want to go. because I got this load booked over here, but I need to get there. This will pay for the fuel. The biggest issue with all these brokers is they're triple dipping, because this broker got the load for X amount. Well, he brokered it to this guy for X amount, who brokered it to this guy for X amount. Case in point, I used to haul batteries from the middle of Pennsylvania to Ontario, California, outside LA, between downtown LA and Fontana. It's right outside of Fontana. It paid $11,500. Now this was, oh God, 19 years ago. This would have been 2007-ish. 11.5 plus the fuel, which I think they gave us like 1,800 bucks in fuel surcharge. And then I would bring produce back because I had a reefer. I was over there getting batteries one day to come home on a weekend. And this gentleman comes over and says, "Hey man, where are you going?" I said, "Out to Ontario." He goes, "Oh, me too. You think they'd pay a little bit more than 6,500 bucks?" And I just sat there, I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm only getting paid 6,500 bucks. It's like 2,700 miles and you're only getting 6,500. He goes, "Yeah, that's what the broker said." Well, I went directly through the company. I didn't have a freight broker. I got the contract through the company. There were a couple of us that did. And when we went through a broker, it was no less than 10. But this broker was getting the loads from the company, and he was giving them off to another broker who was giving them to this guy. So you got $5,000 taken off the price of the load, and this guy was happy doing it. I'm like, "No, this is what I'm getting," and I showed him my rate con. He goes, "How's that?" I said, "We go direct. We're not going through the brokerage, the loads they give to the brokers. We're going direct through their main office." I thought I was doing good. And there's guys out there that think that is doing good, but that's really not. Back then, like, if it was under $3.50 a mile, I didn't even start my truck, and some of those loads weren't even worth it. Now, there were some very lucrative deals back here where you'd make 1,100 bucks to go, 500-600 miles. And guys these days would gripe about that. Well, from where I lived, if I could make 1,100 bucks and only do 200 or 300 miles, I was happy with that. But now you see these brokers going for like $1.80 a mile, and it's long mileage runs, and they don't disclose what the fuel surcharge is. And then by the time you're said and done, you don't make anything. So that's a thing to think about if you're going to have your own truck, is you might want to know some people somewhere, or get your hands in with a good broker that's not going to screw you over. The only way to really know that is you got to find a load you think you want, and then try to find somebody else that goes through a different brokerage, or the customer itself, and find out what the load started at. Because you might be getting ripped off in the end by going that route. That's just a couple things to think about if you're thinking about being a truck driver. I'm in a day cab. This raises up behind me. It's a tri-axle dump truck. I make better money now than I did on the road, and I'm home every day. That's because the company I work for, we have a giant operation with multiple pieces in the machine. So you got to take everything into consideration. I went through hell for years, well, almost 20 years before I got into this stuff. And even the beginning of that wasn't a cakewalk, because it was percentage. But that's a whole other discussion. So if you're thinking about being a truck driver, go back and watch this again. And be ready to eat crap, because you're going to put your time in before you get one of those jobs where you can be comfortable with everything, unless you get really lucky or you get a really good company. And it doesn't matter what company you go for, there's always going to be somebody that complains about the company because they couldn't deal with what the company expected of them as a driver. There's a whole other conversation about winter driving too, so we'll get into that some other time. But if you're thinking about being a truck driver, I'm here to tell you, from my experience, my opinion, it is a great profession if you can adapt to the lifestyle, because you're not home all the time. you're not always going to make the biggest money in the world, because you're going to have bad weeks. You take the good with the bad, there's always next week. If you have an issue today, there's always tomorrow. Be safe, God bless. See you on the other side.